Forget ghost stories. The real deal lives in your Pokédex. One species has orchestrated global catastrophes for centuries. The evidence hidden in plain sight will make you side-eye your own team. Stick to the end to see which monster sits at the top. We'll kick things off at the tier of Pokémon that seem evil at first glance, but are actually pretty wholesome once you dig into their lore. The perfect example to lead this batch is Absol, a Pokémon unfairly branded as a walking disaster magnet. Its reputation has always been that of a harbinger of chaos, but in truth, it's more like a Pokémon-shaped emergency alert system. In the Jirachi movie, in Mystery Dungeon, and even in the routes where it appears in the games, Absol shows up right before catastrophe strikes, trying to warn people, kind of like those annoying radon detectors nobody wants but everyone needs. In Legend ZA, it's the first rogue mega encounter, practically waving a sign about the coming crisis. Absol, you're free to go, actually stay away from airport security. On the same misunderstood but harmless level sits Mimikyu. The poor thing is infamous for cursing people who see under its disguise, and the anime constantly uses this to send Meowth to the afterlife as a running gag. Even Jessie's Mimikyu, with its burning, slightly unhinged hatred of Pikachu, is still rooted in loneliness. Most Mimikyu adore Pikachu because they want to be loved the same way. Sure, if you tear off its disguise, it'll go berserk, but honestly, who wouldn't? That doesn't make it a villain. Trevenant fits right into this group too. Yes, it curses intruders and even devours them, but only if they threaten its forest. Otherwise, it acts like a gentle protector watching over the woodland creatures. If keeping a forest alive means fending off developers trying to put a Dollar General on Route 16, I support the Haunted Tree. Unovan Zoroark wraps up this group of secretly good Pokémon. Sometimes the world paints it as a dangerous manipulator, but most Zoroarks just use illusions to keep themselves and their families safe. Some individuals might enjoy tricking people a bit too much, and a few may punish someone who pushes too far into their territory. But overall, the species is quiet, protective, and prefers avoiding trouble. From here, we drift into the realm of Pokémon whose intentions are much murkier, the morally gray one. Dusknoir is a prime example, with Pokédex entries that read like a tug-of-war between benevolence and menace. At first, it's framed as a guide for lost souls, helping them reach the afterlife. But Legends Arceus mentions it sometimes takes souls prematurely by mistake. Sword adds another twist, stating that it acts on commands from the spirit world and may not even possess a will of its own. It's hard to call something good or evil when it might just be following orders like a supernatural Roomba. Kyurem also lives in this hazy space. Its rumored past of carnivore is never confirmed, but considering its radical and territorial behavior in its movie appearance, it wouldn't be shocking. Still, carnivores in nature aren't evil just because they eat, well, meat. By that logic, Sharpedo, Houndoom, Tyranitar, and 100 more Pokemon belong here too. They're predators, not villains. Sorry to every vegan watching. Darkrai also falls into the gray category despite being constantly cast as a villain. Its nightmares aren't intentional unless it's provoked. Platinum and its movie clear that up quickly. The nightmares are a tragic side effect, not an attack. And Mewtwo, even though most people picture the furious, philosophical one from the first movie, is largely neutral in almost every other medium. It wants to be left alone, uses its power only when maltreated, and holds resentment but not active malice. The movie version really skewed public perception. Moving up the scale takes us into Pokemon whose actions cause immense harm, but may be more destructive by nature than by choice. Guzzlord basically takes Kyurem's alleged ate-a-guy-once lore and turns it into consumed entire civilizations. Yet its limitless hunger is a biological curse, not a conscious decision. It devours because it literally cannot get full. A cosmic vacuum cleaner with fangs? Necrozma fits the same pattern. It's devastated worlds and forcibly absorbed Solgaleo and Lunala, but these acts come from sheer desperation for light, not cruelty. When it finally has enough energy to reach its ultra form, it becomes calm, even revered. Eternatus also sits here, waking up after 0 years and immediately causing the darkest day. Later, due to Chairman Rose's brilliant idea to mess with cosmic energy, it did the same thing again. There's no evidence Eternatus seeks destruction, just that its overflowing power throws it into pain-induced rampages. Surprisingly, even Yveltal, the literal destruction Pokemon, belongs here. When it reaches the end of its lifespan, it drains life from everything around it. But much like Darkrai, this is innate, not malicious. In the Diancie movie, it only attacked because humans woke it prematurely. Once calmed, it simply flew away. Things start getting darker now as we reach Pokemon that have, at times, deliberately engaged in a despicable acts but aren't consistently malicious. Giratina has long been depicted as a radical, banished entity, practically the franchise's version of Satan. Yet Legends Arceus reframes its motives as defensive rather than destructive, showing that its aggression often comes from being provoked. Hypno's behavior split down the middle too. Sometimes it steals away humans to feast on their dreams, but other times it actively helps people with insomnia. It's very likely a case of rogue individuals rather than a universally evil species. Hoopa is even harder to categorize, with its two forms acting like different personalities. Sometimes it harmlessly collects trinkets, sometimes it yoinks entire buildings, and sometimes it casually summons legendary Pokémon for fun chaos. It's unpredictable more than evil, like a trickster deity who changes moods every 5 minutes. Now we finally reach the point where Pokémon are unquestionably malicious on purpose. Litwick and its entire evolutionary line top this list. Litwick tricks people into thinking it's a gentle guide, then siphons away their life energy. Lampenstalks, hospitals waiting for someone to die so it can steal the departing soul. Chandelure doesn't even pretend it can burn a soul while you're still very much alive. At least its Pokken finisher is stylish. Drifloon is somehow even worse conceptually because it abducts children purely because it enjoys doing so. It doesn't need their energy, it just likes the hobby. To make matters worse, some dex entries imply it refuses heavier kids, making it both life-taking and judgmental. Frozlast joins the intentionally cruel tier as a spirit born from a woman who froze to death, targeting handsome men, freezing them solid, and taking them to decorate her mountain home. It actively invades settlements during blizzards, hunting for victims. Jellicent is essentially the oceanic equivalent, sinking ships to feed on life energy. Again, unclear if this is necessary for survival, but extremely clear that it will do it anyway. And then there's Gengar, the franchise's most deceptively marketed ghost. Fans treat it as a rascal, but its Pokédex entries across decades describe a serial life-taker. It curses people, stalks, hikers, and even seeks new companions by ending humans' lives so it can have other ghosts around. Its friendliness is questionable at best. Pecorant and the Loyal 3 from Kitakami deserve a place here too. Pecorant manipulates people, and Pokemon using its toxic mochi, puppeteering them under the guise of making friends. It acts from loneliness, but the effect is still outright brainwashing, and its minions, the Loyal 3, aren't innocent either. Finally, we reach the apex of evil. Pokemon whose existence seems rooted in hatred and malice with almost no redeeming qualities. Banette tops the list as a doll abandoned by a child whose bitterness became so powerful that it transformed into a ghost. Its sole purpose is vengeance. Ultramoon suggests affection can revert it to a harmless doll, but that just erases its identity entirely. Hisui and Zoroark follows close behind. Unlike the Univon version, this form's ghostly power comes from an all-consuming hatred toward every living thing. It's not protecting anything, it simply wants to spread its misery. Spiritomb, composed of 108 malicious spirits, is the embodiment of collective wrongdoing. It was sealed away entirely because of its radical tendencies and continues to curse people without provocation. It's not scared, hungry, or territorial, it's just mean. The Treasures of Ruin are similarly born from curses and grudges, destroying the ancient empire of Paldea and living embodiments of long-held malice. And standing at the summit is Malamar, arguably the most deliberately evil Pokemon in the entire franchise. Unlike Hypno, whose predatory acts vary by individual, Malamar actively uses hypnosis to dominate and manipulate humans and Pokemon alike. Mega Malamar can even wipe personalities clean, turning victims into empty shells. Many major catastrophes throughout the Pokemon world are hinted to be the result of Malamar's schemes. It sees trainers as tools and will brainwash even the ones who raised it if they get in its way. Sure, one or two can be rehabilitated, but as a species, Malamar is built on corruption and control. Tell me which Pokemon deserves the title of Most Dreadful. Defend your choice or argue against the final ranking in the comments. Follow for more unsettling truths the games pretend are just lore.